Alright, let's do a walk around of the airplane. Got out on the ramp. Excuse me for being a little jerky because I'm hand holding this. But we could start here at the rudder. First thing we check to see play up and down. There is hardly any side to side. We look for any cracks down here. We look for any cracking down here in the tail wheel. Go over to this aileron and make sure it plays good. And I look for side to side. There's no play there. Check this bearing here. Again, side to side, nothing. No bangs and rocks and chips in the leading edge. Again, I want to check the elevator bearing down here. So this spot here moves up and down, does not move sideways. And there's one in the center here, so I push up and down on the center. And it's moving there. Over here again, side to side, up and down. It's good. Tire. I just checked. I put 29 pounds of pressure in my tires is what I use. Seems to work out pretty good. If you put more than that, it makes the landings real bouncy and kind of hard to pull off. I've already checked the oil, so the oil door is closed. My fuel door only works from inside, so you can't open it from the outside. Kind of a locking gas cap, if you call it. Propeller's clear. Good. I got my clearances a little bit tight in the spinner area, so you can possibly see if I get it just right. You can see how tight that is down there. I like the gap at the top, but the bottom's a little on the tight side. But it does not appear to be hitting, so if it hits, it'll make some vibration noise. Leading edge is good. Camera set up. That's for new doing two-dimensional video. Tire looks pretty good from out here. And again, I just put air in the tires and checked them. Check this here. Again, no movement at all laterally and up and down. It's tight. There's a hinge here in the center. That's very tight. There's a hinge here in the end that doesn't move in or out, and up and down is good, so that's good. Next wing is good shape there. It's a 30-year-old airplane. It was painted quite a few years ago, so it's hanging in there. Here's an aileron outer hinge, and you can tell there's a little bit of movement in this one, but that's acceptable. Probably see the difference there. Up and down, there's a tiny bit of movement. I could probably stand to replace that bell-round bearing that's in there. And here on the inside, again, it's quite good. It's nice. You can see the little bit of the instrument panel view here, possibly. Might be too dark. And then we're back at the tail again. The surface is good. We already checked that, so. All in all, everything looks pretty straight on it. So let's do a little instrument panel look. Let's take a look at the inside of the airplane. Starting on this side, this is my door latch. So latches the canopy down. This is the door lock. So there's a key from the outside. This key here goes to this. That's the lock for the door. Canopy latches into that. This is the brake handle. So one brake pulls both brakes, so I don't have the differential in this one. Down here we have throttle, mixture. And this one down here is carb heat. And this control up here does my cabin air. And this is my pull starter and my little timer that I can start and stop. I use that to time 10 minutes for the gas pump to be on. My Dynan ethos. We're sitting on the ground now, so it shows us up at an angle, like a climb out angle. And the thing below it is my J.C. Whitney 30-year-old engine monitor. So it measures oil pressure, oil temperature, well, I don't have the RPM rigged up, voltage, and that's for use for setting it. And then inside and outside temperature. So let's see, what is it outside today? So temperature 80 degrees outside. Beautiful day here in Florida. The next one down is my carb temperature system. So there's two numbers. The one on the left is the actual carb temperature. The one on the right is the temperature of the air that's going into it. Yeah, I think I got that backwards. This is the air temperature that's coming into the carburetor, and this is the carburetor temperature itself. So when you pull the carb heat, you can watch that temperature of the air going in rise quickly, and you know your carb heat system's working properly. And this is my tablet that runs my Avare software. It's free Droid software. It's awesome. You got, like you're seeing here, a map of the sectional chart, but you can switch the map to a whack chart or anything else you want that you've downloaded. So whack, I think I got IFR low altitude. So you get IFR charts, you have just all kinds of stuff. And you can download any other charts that you don't have that you want. So super cool app for free, basically. So over here I have a gauge. Well, actually the top one is a MRX Xeon system that detects airplanes that are flying around. So anybody who picks up on your transponder will see on this puppy. So I just fired it up in case you can see how it comes up. It's in flight mode now, and it'll be looking for airplanes around the airport. And it sees one at 4 miles away at my altitude, so it's on the ground, which I'm on the ground. So. The next thing down is a gauge that I have that reads my header, gas tank limit. Eventually it'll read my EGT and CHT. It reads the advance on my electronic ignition. It's a homemade gizmo. Then the next thing down is this square panel, and everybody should do this. I don't know why they don't. All my fuses, my switches, everything controlled by this one panel. 4 screws, pop it out. You can make your changes to it, do anything you want. It's just an awesome way to control the electronics in your airplane. These little switches probably won't handle some of the powers I'm trying to switch, so they switch relay that's inside the box. So the switch is just a low power micro switch on the outside. And you can see I run my ignitions and my mags, and I have 2 green lights above there. So when my ignition system's turned on, that light lights, and when my magneto senses a switching that the magnetos are running, the green light will flicker at low speeds and pretty solid at high speeds. But if you lose a magneto, that light will go out. That green light will go out. So I like that. And this is my old intercom system I built like 30 years ago. I'm still using it today. It's got some more of the circuit breakers and switches the audio around. I have a stereo intercom that I run in this airplane. And right now this wire here is leading down to my ham radio that I set in here. So I just rig it so I can plug my ham radio in when I want to use it. So that's nice. Then we got the comm radio below that, and then the transponder. I just got back, so I was squawking 0125. And then I got my time meter over here, and I got a cabin air setting for the passenger on this side. Standard seat belts with the 4-point harnesses. little old looking. And this puppy back here is where I plug in my headsets and earphones and cameras and telephones. The plug is rigged so it goes right into your telephone. And so theoretically you could use the telephone of the airplane, but I've rarely done that. I like having these cabin holes in the back because I can store all kinds of stuff in there. Cabin holes. So I've got an ELT, standard 121.5 ELT mounted back here. The reason I mount it here is I can access that in flight and turn it off if somehow it gets turned on. Under the seats in the back here, I've got storage capacity. So we can open this up and see. For flying single place, which I'm going to do, I put some lead weights in the back here and tie them down. And this is my ham radio antenna, which is mounted up here. It's got a couple of copper tapes that go off to the side, one that goes up for the antenna itself. Yeah. So that works. And this is just to protect some of the control system, because I'm able to just throw luggage in the back here and not tie it down. So this is my back filter. Oh, and I've got the transponder antenna mounted underneath here. So that's the ground plane for the transponder antenna. And again, I've got this center column piece to protect the control tubes, so I can just throw baggage in here and not have to worry about tying it down. And that pretty much finishes up the inside of the airplane pictorial. Oh, on the cushion side, I've built these little bags so you can put paper and pencils and various things. I keep my fuel checked. This little gizmo I use for keeping the oil door open. Let's go run around and see how that works. So when you come back and you land, you want to cool your oil off. So I open my oil door and I put this little guy in here up to the hooky so that it keeps my oil door open. I point it into the wind and then I get a nice airflow through. Keeps my oil. I had found that the top of the engine here gets super hot after you shut down, and it was actually baking the grease out of my magnetos. So I always try to get the engine cooled off before I leave it. In the center compartment, I got some space left over up here, so I built this plastic box in the center of my head cushions. And what it lets me do is store my emergency locator transmitter, for instance. So I have one of these puppies, and taught the wife how to use it. And I built a little box for it, so it goes in there. My registration and stuff goes up here on top, because you legally have to have that displayed. So that's the canopy. And I like the side-mounted canopy because it's very light, very simple, and it works fine. So it doesn't need anything fancy. So that completes the walk around of the inside of the airplane.